Joey Jones with us now. You're around my age. I'm sure you grew up watching Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, that universe of really big-time action stars. Can you believe that that's considered to be controversial now? But I thought it was well said by Arnold.
Well, I think it's controversial because it's being said by Arnold Schwarzenegger. I have a little bit longer memory, and I remember some of the videos he was putting out criticizing Donald Trump in a really ridiculous way over the last handful of years. So I just add him to the latest of the long list of Trump derangement victims who have started to see the light, probably because all the people that make them popular and rich have also seen the light, and so they're following suit. And I appreciate that he said those things. I think I'll say I think he believes those things, but he has largely ignored the things like that he believes in order to criticize Donald Trump for the last 6 years. And it's good to see him come around.
Tell me about I believe you have a book out, if I'm not mistaken. Tell me about what you're going around talking about right now.
Yeah, the most important thing for me to talk about right now it is this book, because it's something that's so important to me. It's not to say that war and the other things that we're discussing aren't just as important, more so. But before we can worry about war, we have to get out of our house, go do the things we do in our lives, and try to stay safe doing them. And there are people out there called first responders that keep us alive. And I wish it were just personal experience in the sense of I got pulled over one time, but it's not. It's people that are really close to me in my life. My brother-in-law, somebody that's been an uncle to me since I was 3 years old, a guy that I went to war with. And these are Indiana State Trooper, firemen. These are a game warden in the state of Maine, a SWAT team member near Baltimore, LAPD bomb squad. And their stories are they're inspiring from a position of, how do you keep doing this every day? How do you get out of your house every day and drive your kids to school through an intersection where someone was killed there last night and you responded to it? How do you drive by an apartment building that you've gone to so many times for a drug overdose or domestic violence or a fire? And how do you live in your battlefield and get up every morning and you're happy to go to work and you carry that weight, not just the weight of your gear, but the memories of all the things you've experienced in your own community, and still function as a dad or a wife or a son? And I got to sit down with 9 of those people and ask those questions. We made this book from it, and it's just an amazing piece of history, really.
The book's called Behind the Badge, Answering the Call to Serve on America's Home Front. You served, lost your legs, Purple Heart recipient. So you uniquely are probably experiencing what's going on with Iran based on the service that you already have given to this country and the sacrifice that you've made. So if President Trump called you up and he said, hey, what advice would you give me based on what you've seen about the situation in Iran, you would say what?
What's the clear objective? If you can explain a clear objective of what you want to accomplish, then I'm absolutely supportive of you. Because as a president, you've already shown that your goal is not to put service members on the front lines for 20 years. Your goal is not to convince the American people every 2 years to fund an endless war. Your goal isn't to wrap us up in a war that the objective changes every 2 years. That it goes from we want to kill Osama bin Laden to we want to create democracy and spread our belief system across the Middle East. I don't believe that President Trump has any of those goals. I believe President Trump's goal is to keep Americans safe, not just for the 4 years he's in office, but for the next 40 years. I also believe that's why he has the economic vision he has. And so he's built enough trust in me for his first 4 years in office and doing what he says in this much of this term, that I'm not concerned with him getting us into a needless war or an endless war. But as someone who fought in a 20-year war, I'm skeptical of anyone in power who can send troops there, and I want to know, what are your objectives? What is the objective? I'm not saying he can say that to us publicly right now. There is a chess game going on, and I believe that President Trump understands the power of his words as a point of leverage. So even if he says it publicly, I know there's more behind it than just what he says. If it's, total surrender. Does that mean total surrender of your nuclear program, or does that mean get on a plane and exile to Russia? He knows, Iran knows, the rest of us have to guess. And so I understand the strategy here. I believe that President Trump is seeing an opportunity to use that microphone as diplomacy a threat, I guess you would say. But also on the back channels, he's trying to make a deal. He says that.
We're talking to Joey Jones, Fox News. I know you're a sports fan. We haven't talked about it on the program the last couple of days, but Caitlin Clark getting wrecked has every game. It's like it goes mega viral. What do you think should happen there? Is it good for the league, even though at least it creates controversy when it's like the Real Housewives of the WNBA? Can you remember seeing anything like this as a sports fan?
Listen, poking her in the eye, I think, is the latest thing that happened. That's the dirtiest
that's right.
thing. Like any hands to the face like that's the dirtiest move. I mean, for men, there's maybe one move that's a little dirtier when you're in a pile in football, but that's a different thing. But to poke somebody in the eye, that's just such an egregious act. I think anyone that gets caught doing it should be suspended automatically. From the greater picture, I think it's probably the best thing that's happened to the WNBA in a long time. I mean, I hate to be cynical in that way. I'm not saying it's an objectively good thing, but there's another one, Sophie. I can't remember her last name. Like
Cunningham. Sophie Cunningham is turning into a star now.
It doesn't hurt that she's a very attractive young woman, but also she's coming out and throwing up elbows and defending her teammates. So now it's like there's more intrigue, there's more characters in the plot, and so the more it grows in that way, it's got to capture an audience for the WNBA. Is it setting the right example? I don't know. Did Chad Ochocinco or any number of football players that have captured people's attention, for Terrell Owens, did any of those make the world a better place or set a great example? Probably not. So it's not great that this is how you get eyes there, but I'm infinitely more interested in the sport than I was a year and a half ago. So I think you got to be honest in that respect.
Supreme Court ruling came down yesterday. You've got kids. Earlier in the program, I said, I don't understand how any parent that is looking at things rationally could say, hey, it's good for a 14 or 15-year-old to have permanent surgery that would potentially sterilize them or alter in some way their ability to grow up as a healthy adult. And I looked at it on the Supreme Court. I said, 6-1 parents said Tennessee can do what Tennessee was trying to do. 2 non-parents, Sotomayor and also Kagan, said 2-0, oh, this is perfectly fine. Do you think being a parent here impacts the way you see this? And does it surprise you that parents would have almost entirely one perspective and non-parents might have another one?
I like where you're going there, and I think for rational human beings, that's absolutely true. But I mean, you got to remember, these kids that are having this done have parents, and I guess their parents are okay with it. I mean, some have said they believe they were brainwashed in hindsight, but I mean, I would say that too if I screwed up that badly, I guess, and my kid decided to reverse course. So I think it really comes down to being a rational human being and understanding the world as it exists. I mean, there are short people that want to be tall. There are tall people that want to be short. There are blondes that want to be brunettes. And I guess there's some things that are temporary you can do to change. You can buy thick shoes or dye your hair. But when you come to changing the chemical makeup of your DNA, of your body, I mean, I'm a 38-year-old man, and I have to take testosterone replacement because my body quit making it because my cortisol levels were so raised for so long, not just through my injury, but through my recovery, that my body said, you know what, we're in a fight or flight mode from now on. And I did that for many years, and then finally my body started working again just to get it back to normal. And I know how I felt for the years that I was in that state. And to think that I would go and actively do that to deprive my body of something it needs for bone density, for wellness, for regeneration, to heal, to deprive my body of those things or to change the chemical makeup of those things is a heavy decision. And to let a teenager that doesn't, under the eyes of the law, have the discernment to drive a vehicle, drink alcohol, serve their country, or vote, change who they are in that way, in a way that's detrimental to their health in any respect. Only irrational people think that's a good idea. Now, I understand. The argument is you haven't had a child that's going through gender dysphoria and dealt with that. You're right. I get that. But there are any number of issues out there. We don't take every person that struggles with depression and anxiety and hysteria and give them a lobotomy. Like we grew through that stupidity. And this is the lobotomy of gender dysphoria. That's what this is, and that's the problem. Is it's irrevocable and causes harm, and it's forever.
No doubt. Hey, I encourage everybody to check it out. Behind the Badge, answering the call to serve on America's home front. Joey Jones, you can see him on Fox News, Purple Heart recipient. Great work. Appreciate you making the time for us today. Good luck with the book.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
That is Joey Jones. And I want to tell you, I'm going to play some of your talkbacks. I think we're going to be entertained by those. But in the meantime, you just heard me asking, what would Joey tell the president if the president asked him, hey, what do you think we should do? Israeli citizens today suffered incoming missile strikes, hit in a hospital. Tremendous damage. And the missile attacks meant to harm innocent civilians. They're just trying to injure people that have nothing at all to do with the battle. Israelis have to move into bomb shelters at a moment's notice overnight. They got to get down there to get themselves out of harm's way. No end in sight to these kind of bombings, and the need for assistance is great, which is why the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is on the ground preparing large-scale distributions of life-saving food, first aid, and emergency kits, especially to Israel's most vulnerable people, the sick, the elderly, children, and families in great need. Your help is needed right now more than ever. They're making sure hospitals, emergency rooms, shelters, fully stocked critical life-saving supplies. That's why the fellowship needs your most generous gift today. Now's the time to stand with Israel's most vulnerable. Rush your gift today. 888-488-IFCJ. That's 888-488-IFCJ. You can also go online at ifcj.org. That's ifcj.org.